Hello and welcome to part 2 of the Arma Hobby Hurricane project. Everything starts off in the wings and I'm just drilling out the holes here for the fuel tanks. It's all clearly marked on the inside, and you'll notice there I've also written on the wing there the number of the parts, because for the wing leading edge landing lights there's an error in the instructions. So I've just written it there just to remind me to put the right bits on the right wing. And you just need to remove that little bit of extra plastic. I thought I'd drill out some lightning holes in the wheel bay for a better look. And now I need to paint them. So using the A-stand paint, I'm going to paint all the wheel well bits, and not forgetting these bits which may be visible in the cockpit on the one-piece upper wing. That's the roof of the wheel bay, nicely detailed. And then once everything's painted, I'm going to go in with a wash. And this is just a wash made from various oil brushes. It's kind of like a very dark brown. Looks black on camera, but it is an extremely dark brown, just for that sort of grimy effect and just to help the detail pop. And not forgetting the other side as well, because this is potentially visible looking through the cockpit, so I'm just not taking any chances. And going in and just doing all the other bits. Now I prefer to paint and weather these bits separately rather than gluing everything together and then painting, because otherwise there's quite a few 90-degree angles and you may get a bit of recirculation and some rough paint in the corners. So I just thought it would give a better finish if everything was painted separately. And it's going to make the cleanup of the oil wash easier as well, because so you can have much better access. And then just cleaning up with a cotton bud, and you can see how that wash just makes all that beautiful detail pop. It helps obviously that the metallic paint is very shiny. Now this was, in the real thing, painted aluminium. It wasn't natural metal. So what I ended up doing was just spraying a VMS varnish coat, a satin varnish over the top, which seals in all that oil work, but also you get the right sheen on that aluminium paint, and it will dull that metallic effect back again. It's just important to have a very light touch, because it's easy to rub a little bit too much away. Now we're going to put everything together. So using some Tamiya sort of the thicker glue, the little tank just pops on there. Everything just fits beautifully. But as you can see here, I am scraping some of the paint away. Not only is it quite tight tolerances here, but also that's obviously going to help the paint, the glue to do its work. Because otherwise you're just going to be gluing to paint and you're at risk of it not quite working. It can pull off. You'll have a weaker bond there. So different glues for different jobs. So using the thicker glue as a sort of main glue, if you like, and then just going in with the extra thin type glue just to seal all the edges. A little bit tricky to line all this up, but it does go in. You can see there just on the right of the screen, just covered up by my hand, the copper coloured pipe. Now I didn't have any copper coloured paint, so what I did is I painted it silver, and then I mixed a bit of acrylic silver paint with a bit of rust colour and watered it down a bit, and just came up with this coppery paint, and it worked actually quite well. And bearing in mind it's tucked away in the wheel bay, it's not going to be super visible, but prominent enough that I wanted a decent job. Now for the wheel bay roof / cockpit floor. And when this goes in, it kind of clicks everything together. You can set all the angles right, and it's a very important piece actually. You can see the slight curve on it there. And it builds up into obviously a well-detailed bay. Here's that copper pipe going in. And then what I'll do is, once I've finished this, I'll weather it with some oil paints, just adding grime, so like an oily colour. And you can see the results of the weathering there. Unfortunately, my head was in the way when I filmed it, so sorry about that. But I'll do better next time. Now we can put the wings together. So the wheel bay piece just clips into place. And that's with no glue at all. That's just a dry fit. And you can see it just holds itself in there. And that's the effect we're going to get when viewed from underneath. Now what I would have done is normally I would have sprayed the undersurface colour, but by this stage I hadn't decided what that would have been, so I'm going to have a tricky masking job. The instructions call out for modification of the shell ejector chutes when the drop tanks are fitted, so it was just putting a piece of plastic card as a backing piece and then filling up the gap with just little scraps of plastic card, so they go in, and then I'll come in with some black super glue. You can just see a little bit of my head there. That's the reason why there's no footage of the oil weathering in the wheel bay. Yeah, so finishing off with some black super glue, then just using these very flat, very small ammo sanding sticks because they're very precise to sand that flush, and then going in with a scalpel and just cutting out the correct shape. All the instructions are very clear and a fairly straightforward job. I nearly didn't bother actually. I just thought, oh, I'll leave it, no one's going to know, but I'm glad I did it in the end. So we know the dry fit is very good, and I'm just running a thin bead of the extra thin type glue just to hold that wheel bay in place. You can see all those weird ejector pins and everything on the wings. Don't worry about that. You'll not have to worry about those. Now some people just at the rear there, the sort of very tip of the trailing edge, have had theirs damaged. Mine, absolutely fine. So I was very pleased about that. Very relieved. Just using some pegs just to hold it in place. Now the ailerons, a little bit indistinct I thought. And so I just went in with a Tamiya scriber, which is a fairly wide scriber. And I just increased the sort of width and the gauge, if you like. And I think this improves the look really quite a lot, actually. Desperately trying not to slip. And apologies for the dirty thumb. The oil paint got in there. Oh. And the wings join, so these two-piece wings, I really like the design of this kit. The engineering is really clever. Obviously it's a bit of a crossover from the 72nd kit. But just the two-piece wing is really clever, I thought. Works really well in this model. The characteristic fat leading edge from the Hurricane, which obviously limited its speed. And yeah, the fit, which is going to be a theme in the next issue of this project, you'll see is exceptional. Just applying quite a lot of pressure there to ooze the glue out, seal that leading edge. And I'll leave this as long as I can, minimum 3 days. I like to leave it a week if I can to properly go off so I don't get any sinkage. Leading edge is super fine, super sharp, glues nicely, and just sealing it in with the glue. Again, using the pressure technique, and that means I'm not going to have any gaps or bubbles or anything like that. So the instrument panel is beautiful. That is just the kit part with the decal. I sliced the decal to help it conform, and yeah, you get an absolutely beautiful result. On to the cockpit now, and after the silver colour was applied, it was masked off and the interior green was sprayed on. This is MRP. And a little bit of a complicated masking bit here for the rear bulkhead. The upper portion was green, and all the lower half of the cockpit is silver, either silver dope or painted aluminium. Seat is built up and then painted and weathered with oils. And now we can put the cockpit in together. So it's really fiddly. It's highly detailed. The engineering is extremely clever. You can see there I've cleaned my thumb, and the parts just fit together really quite nicely actually, and it builds up into a beautifully detailed cockpit. Now I did think of adding some wiring here and there, but actually the opening is really rather small. It's typical of a Hawker aeroplane. I kind of had this on the Edouard Tempest, that I did some extra detailing in that, and the cockpit's really quite small and dark. Obviously this is silver, so it does reflect a lot more light, but yeah, I think on the next one I will add a little bit of wiring, but I'm not going to go mad. I don't think it's just that, you know, it's not required. A little bit of paint chipping on the green. And now this decal here. So I thought actually this was a little bit disappointing, this decal. And I think on the next one I'm going to replace various bits and pieces. I'll check my references and just do a careful paint job. Maybe just use some placards and decals and things like that. But yeah, for me this bit wasn't an entire success. Could be done better, I reckon. I managed to go and lose the compass, so that was scratch built from some punch and die. That's just white and black plastic card. That was all painted up later. I used the HGW seat belts, opened up the slot in the back of the bulkhead so I could feed the seat belt through. So that just pokes through, and then you can just glue the seat in place. And then with a little bit of super glue, just glue the seat harness down on the back. Although you don't really need to, because you're not going to see anything. So you could just leave it. But the HGW belts, they're fiddly. But yeah, they are really good. Just be careful though, because if the super glue sticks to the tweezers, you'll rip bits of the fabric off. It is quite fragile. You do have to be careful. And we just stuck it down, and there is the final result. Really nice. Now we can put the cockpit together. So you can see some of the weathering at the bottom. Don't bother doing that, you're not going to see anything. But this little sub-assembly with the sort of the heel plates, rudder pedals, etc., that just glues in. It's all very clear in the instructions. It fits beautifully well. It's very solid. Fantastic engineering, and you just see the depth of the detail there. It's just fabulous. The cockpit sides go in. Very positive mounting locations. It's a drop-in fit. And then this sort of V shape, again, it's very intuitive where it goes. You just literally put it in there and it almost like falls into the right place. So you just guide it in with the tweezers, add a bit of glue just to hold it in place. So the control column, this is a little bit less clear in the instructions, so feel free to, once my hair's out of the way, not much of that left, just pause the video if you've got one of these kits and you can see exactly where it's supposed to go. Some people have struggled, I've seen, and they end up cutting bits away. You don't need to do that, you just need to put it in the right place. But the instructions, I did feel in this area, were less clear than they could have been. Now for the rear bulkhead. So again, just using this resin type glue from Tamiya. So I'm just applying that first, and then we'll just pop the bulkhead in place. Obviously this is a vital piece of where this goes. Get this wrong and yeah, you are going to have issues, but it's all very clear where it's supposed to go. It's very intuitive. You can see there, I am fussing a lot with this because it is, as I said, very important to get this in exactly the right place. And once it's in there, I'll go in with the extra thin just to back everything up. And this is what I love about this. Well, the glue's great from Ammo, but the brush is just so precise, it's brilliant. And there is the finished cockpit. I really hope you enjoyed that episode. It's been a really fun project so far, and in the next episode what we're going to do is we're going to build the airframe. This little shot here gives you a little bit of a flavour of how good and precise it is, the fit, and I'll see you in the next part. Cheers, bye bye.